Hello and welcome to National Focus. I'm Kimani. Among the major developments, Dominica to participate in upcoming FATF plus 9 recommendations plenary, capacity building for local government authorities, and Disney Cruise Line express interest in Dominica's tourism product. Stay with us for details of these and other stories after the break.
Let your spirit take to flight, let your heart run free and wild, find your soul in Dominica, the nature
Welcome back. Dominica's Attorney General, Honorable Levi Peter, will make representation on Dominica's behalf at the upcoming Financial Action Task Force 40 plus 9 recommendations plenary, scheduled to take place on May 27th and 28th in Nicaragua. The FATF recommendations are the internationally endorsed global standards against money laundering and terrorist financing. These recommendations increase transparency and enable countries to successfully take action against illicit use of the financial system. Dominica's Legal Affairs Minister, Honorable Ian Douglas, says Dominica's participation is necessary as the island continues to position itself to be a valuable player in the financial services sector in the region.
We have in the next couple of days, I think on the 27th and 28th of May, the Honorable Attorney General will head a delegation to our plenary. The plenary is where you go and you report on your jurisdiction, what actions have been taken to continue to make the jurisdiction compliant with the requirements of the FATF. It's called the 40 plus 9 recommendations. There's a whole list of recommendations that they give, they direct, and you have to put, you as a jurisdiction, meaning Dominica and by extension the government, have to put those 40 plus 9 recommendations in place to ensure that we are compliant. Because if you are non-compliant, you become blacklisted, and it really interferes and undermines and jeopardizes your ability to continue to be a player in financial services, in the financial services sector in the region and in the world.
The FATF recommendations set out a comprehensive and consistent framework of measures which countries should implement in order to combat money laundering and terrorist financing, as well as the financing of a proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Countries have diverse legal, administrative, and operational frameworks and different financial systems, and so cannot all take identical measures to counter these threats. The FATF recommendations, therefore, set an international standard which countries should implement through measures adopted to their particular circumstances. In more news, the OECS Export Development Unit has broadened its mandate to involve developing creative industries in the sub-region. Sobers Esprit was recently appointed by the unit as a business development officer who will work with client firms in the OECS to enhance their competitiveness, build their capacity for export, and strengthen the effectiveness of service providers in that area. Esprit says the creative industries sector is a relatively new sector in Dominica, and the unit is keen on working with local talent in assisting them in realizing their fullest potential.
We know that we have a lot of talented musicians. We have people involved in the film and audiovisual sector. We have lots of companies doing arts and craft. And so what we want to do is to work with them to realize the full potential for export development and for generating jobs, for creating jobs, generating income for our sub-region. That is the whole thrust towards building the creative sector at this time.
Esprit says the unit will adopt a multi-pronged approach in working with individuals in the creative sector. He says the first order of business would be to establish cluster groupings and associations in the field.
First of all, we think at the very early stage, it's going to involve a lot of mobilization of what they call business support organizations in that sector. As you're probably aware as well, the creative industry sector is probably one of the least organized sectors. A lot of people work on their own. It's a really micro enterprises. So you have bands and singers and musicians working on their own. You have individual filmmakers working on their own. So one of the things we want to do at the very beginning is to help develop and establish cluster groupings and associations working in that field. So we can provide under the 10th EDF support for the strengthening of those organizations. So for example, we have in Dominica an audiovisual association, so we're going to be working with them. We have the Association of Music Professionals, AMP. We have the Dominica Calypso Association. We have the Dominica Arts and Craft Association. And so with those groups, we want to see how we can help to strengthen them and to make them more effective.
The Business Development Officer explained that his office will also seek to provide training for those involved in the creative sector.
We want to work with groups looking at how we can directly enhance their competitiveness. So we can do training in various fields, for example, in management, in marketing, in things like sound engineering in the music sector, so that we can in fact see some improvement in terms of the quality of the people who really deliver service. So the idea is basically from the very beginning to see how we can in fact craft intervention at supporting the client firms in that area.
Esprit says in the medium term, the OECS EDU will look to harmonize policies and programs across the OECS and the issue of enforcement of legislation as it relates to piracy. Esprit explained further that issues of incentives and tax policies will also be looked at to see how these can be more beneficial to clients and people working in the field of creative industries. The successful implementation of fiscal incentives can boost the manufacturing sector in difficult times. This was one of the subjects discussed by Brian Pingley, president of the Jamaica Manufacturers Association. With over 20 years of experience, Pingley suggested that income tax exemptions and duty-free raw material and machinery imports can aid in advancing the economy. He made these comments during the second annual general meeting of the Dominica Manufacturers Association on Wednesday, referencing Jamaica as a case study.
As part of our information seeking, we canvassed at least 15 countries to examine their incentives. And secondly, determined that manufacturing input should not be taxed. And any tax should be on the finished goods side, on the output side, once you have manufactured the item.
Pingley advised the Dominica Manufacturers Association on the benefits of cooperation among sectors.
What is therefore required is for governments to recognize a strong correlation between growth in manufacturing and increased government revenues. Attaining fiscal austerity and economic growth is a balancing act, but we must find the appropriate composition for sustained growth.
Pingley also mentioned that before attempting to penetrate the international market, manufacturers of Caribbean states ought to be able to meet the needs of their own markets and the region.
Why not seek opportunities for contract manufacturing if you believe that you have a strong product and brand? Joint ventures, even set up a company. Investment opportunities exist in agro-processing, furniture manufacturing, and other inputs to the tourism sector, packaging and labeling, aquaculture, boat building, essential oils and nutraceuticals, medical devices, and value-added products from limestone. There are also numerous opportunities for import substitution for products such as dairy, footwear, beef, poultry, rice, vegetables, legumes, juices, paper-based containers, hygiene products and containers, and wooden furniture.
Pingley invited the executive board of the DMA to send a delegation to Export Jamaica 2014 to seek out business opportunities and explore two-way trade between the islands. He affirmed that there is a need to strengthen linkages, diversify product bases, and seek opportunities to add value to primary crops. Pengley listed key ingredients for a successful market system.
Public-private sector partnership and consultation is critical to achieving the type of environment that is necessary to facilitate growth. And if there is anything that I can claim success in my leadership of the Jamaica Manufacturers Association over the last year has been our close working relationship with our ministers of government. Doors are open, we can go in, we can discuss facts, we can educate, we can talk about the issues, and a lot of the wins have come through that collaboration.
The skills of village council clerks to effectively write projects for submission to funding agencies have been significantly enhanced through a series of ongoing capacity building workshops. The workshops, which began last week, are being spearheaded by the Dominica Association of Local Government Authorities. On Friday, clerks from the South and Southeast regions met for Day 2 of their session at the Flamboyant Hotel in Roseau. Recently appointed Administrative Manager of DALA says these training exercises are important as efforts are continuing to assist village councils across the country to become more efficient.
The objective of the training is to teach them skills in strategic planning, leadership, lobbying, project writing. So what we want to do, what DALCA got funding actually from VNG International through CALGA, which is the Caribbean Association, under the Ariel project to fund this training. DALCA took on two employees. I'm the administrative manager, and Ms. George is the field officer who has to work with the local councils. And so with the two of us, the team, along with the chairman and the executive, we have to help build the capacity of the local councils of Dominica.
Ms. Trotman says participants have embraced the training exercises wholeheartedly.
When you could see the participation of everybody, they really enjoy it, and it's like they're very happy. And then they're saying that, you know, at last something is being done for the local councils. Because they felt like they were neglected in the past, and now that DALCA is becoming a force, because, you know, DALCA is the umbrella organization. DALCA is becoming a force and really looking out for them, and then they're really happy that the training opportunity was given to them. And so they will go back to their councils and help build their councils.
Assisting the village council clerks in developing strategic plans for their respective councils is new appointed field officer Vincent George. Ms. George will work to ensure that these plans are developed well to attract funding.
I am the person assigned or recruited to visit the village councils on a regular basis. I will do that on a weekly basis and oversee their projects to develop in whatever way that we can, help them to develop it. The project has to be sustainable, self-sustainable, and there are certain requirements that they look for, the donor agencies, so I will help them in meeting those requirements, whereby we could receive funding for these projects, and encouraging them in certain building on certain capacity that they're lacking in terms of use of the computer technology, programming, doing their work programming for them for the week, ensure that they are well equipped with work and what they have put out, that they have done it and in a timely manner. So I'm the one who assigned for that, and I'll be happy in doing so, because, you know, as we know in the past, most persons say, oh, the council's not doing nothing for the community, the council is not doing nothing, and they're not paying their house rates, they're not paying dues because council's not doing this, council's not doing that. But as a community, if we support and we give them the strength, the support that they need, we will see the efficiency of the councils.
A similar workshop is planned for village council clerks of the North and the Northeast regions next week in Portsmouth. In more news, Disney Cruise Line has its eyes set on Dominica as one of its potential port of calls. Director of Marine, Port, Security Operations and Maritime Affairs for Disney Cruise Line, Russell Dyer, was among the representatives of the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association who visited Dominica recently. At a press conference held last week, Dyer highlighted that motives behind his visit lie in wanting to gain a better understanding of the operations within the island's tourism industry. According to him, Disney Cruise Lines is looking to expand its offerings to its guests and Dominica's potential inclusion in their future itineraries.
We evaluate every destination, not just for what it offers and the quality of experience. That's a huge part, because without our guest satisfaction, they're not going to want to come on our itineraries and onto our ships. But that's one element. There are other commercial factors that we need to take into consideration. Fuel is a very prevalent issue within the industry today, and it's no secret that cruise lines have been looking at optimizing their itineraries to reduce certain operating costs in order to provide a good quality and value product to our guests and still take them to these great destinations.
Dyer also stressed on the importance of cooperation and collaboration, two factors which he identifies as necessary ingredients for the success of any destination. He stated that a balance of these two elements is needed not only within the government but between the private sector and stakeholders of the industry as well.
You see, the most successful destinations have all of those ingredients within that recipe. And it's the understanding of government of what the stakeholders' needs, requirements are. It's the stakeholders and the attraction operators and providers understanding what the cruise line's needs are, and everybody coming together in venues and forums just like this and participating, talking out loud some of those ideas. Some things might never get off the starting blocks, but having that dialogue and bringing people together and working together, and that's not just the organized tours, and I alluded to this yesterday in some talks that we had on the road. It's those independent operators as well.
He noted the value of better collaboration between independent and organized tour operators to overall guest experience.
They have to be of exactly the same standard of the organized tour operators, and that takes hard work, investment, but overall, as we look at a destination for itinerary planning, it's the guests that are rating you. It's not us as a cruise line. It's the guest's experience. So it's not just those that go on the organized tours. It's those that just walk ashore, go to a duty-free shop, that take their own independent taxi tour, or maybe just take a walk through the city centre. Those are the guests that are also rating the destination. And it's important that those guests, along with those on organized tour, are given the same standard and quality of experience.
The 4th annual Jazz and Creole Festival was hosted on Sunday on the grounds of the Cabritz National Park. We now bring you sights and sounds of this year's festival. And that's the English news. McPherson St. Luce is next with Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non, moi, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, qui a fait parole que le gouvernement qui continue à collaborer et puis on l'autre pays Afrique, rangement international, a de manière de bénéfice économique de pays là. Honorable Skerrit fait parole celle-là pendant qu'il a délivré l'adresse en observance Journée Libération Afrique mardi. Si le Premier ministre Skerrit, même si Afrique loin nous, Dominique continue à explorer et puis avancer relations et puis African Union et puis PEP Afrique. Et des relations celle-là c'est bagaille positive gouvernement qui concerne police étrangère. Gouvernement Dominique a cru que solidarité étrangère, c'est un bon bagage qui est en bénéfice pays là. En autre nouvelle, plusieurs chairman et puis Clerk Village Council Sud et puis Sud-Est pays là, attendez un workshop où là, il y a un entraînement pour manœuvrer travail Village Council. Workshop déjà là prend place en hôtel flamboyant en rose aujourd'hui. Mademoiselle Vincent George, c'est field officer Calga qui est en charge pour visiter ces consulats et de chercher une manière pour faire le travail plus effectif.
Nous avons un workshop sur capacité développement pour les communities, tout village council à Dominique. Nous avons fait en district level, so nous avons mené tous ces districts là en 3 différents venues, 3 différentes positions. Nous avons Rosalie, Jordia, nous avons Roseau. Semaine prochaine, nous avons Portsmouth. Ça, c'est les 3 différentes positions. Nous avons fait workshop pour 2 jours en capacité développement pour communities. So, nous avons appelé à ces associations, chairman pour les councils et clerks pour les councils pour attendre les 2 jours workshop sur capacité building.
Et puis finalement, le département éducation grand monde qui a reçu assistance et puis programme qui a conduit un modèle neuf ou là, il a servi TV et puis vidéo qui a commencé en Dominique en septembre l'année dernière. Moun qui a des difficultés pour lire et puis écrire, qui a expecté pour bénéficier de votre programme là. Programme là qui a tapé finance, ça fait la Gérard Alba, qui a testé en 3 communautés avant et puis si marche bien, d'autres communautés qui tapé programme là. Programme là a été implémenté en Cuba en l'année 2000 et puis 15 pays déjà adopté. Une délégation spécialisée en Cuba était en Dominique, où là ils joignent et puis officier qui a préparé pour le programme là. Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelle en créole pour à présent. Non, moi c'est McPherson St. Luce. Ni un bon week-end. Au revoir.
We now bring you a recap of the week's edition of Flashback with Tanya Green.
Thank you, Kimani. Here now are the major stories which made the news this week. The Dominica State College is collaborating with 2 Canadian universities in developing the local agribusiness sector. The Feast of St. Isidore was celebrated in a number of communities on the island over the weekend. The Girardel Eggleston Flower Show was relaunched last week following a 9-year absence. Government has embarked on an African Liberation Day celebration, saying it should form part of the national calendar of events. Dominica and Colombia is partnering in water resource management as both countries will share knowledge in that area. And government continued discussions with officials of the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association and tourism stakeholders with the hope of addressing issues that continue to impact heavily on the tourism sector. And Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit said Dominica's foreign policy will be extended to deepen relations with Africa. A Cuban adult literacy program dubbed Yes, I Can will be piloted in Dominica this September. And the Dominica Manufacturers Association held its second annual general meeting this week. The Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development announced that 1,100 students across Dominica sat this year's Grade 6 National Assessment. And these were the major stories which made the news this week. It's now back to you, Kimani.
Thank you, Tanya. When we come back, we will bring you the tip of the day.
Documentaries and in-depth discussions, community walkthroughs, and Yes We Care. See it all on GIS Channel 7.
If you have asthma, diabetes, a heart condition, knee or back problems, or any other health or medical issue, limit your exertion if you decide to go hiking. The altitude, strenuous climbing, dehydration, and an intense inner heat will combine to make any medical problem worse. Stay within your training physical limitations and abilities. And that's all for National Focus today. We welcome your suggestions and comments. Please feel free to drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website at news.gov.dm. Friend us on Facebook and be sure to like our GIS Dominica fan page. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm Kimani Seja. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful weekend.